All right. Hey, Jonathan, thank you for jumping on the Cam Monkey podcast show. Appreciate you taking time out of your day and being here and sharing some of your insights of not just what you do, but who you are and how you are able to contribute into our industry. I had the privilege of getting dinner with you and some others a couple months ago in Florida at the Darm, and didn't realize we're two boys from Leon County from Florida, but also I didn't realize all the stuff that you have done in the industry and who that you were actually TopKey. Had heard about your brand, had heard about your company, didn't put two and two together. So we'd love for you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do and how you're helping our industry.
Yeah, crazy small world. We're both from Leon County. I went to Leon High School. You went to Lincoln? Is that right?
No, I
Okay.
moved a long time
Oh, you
ago,
moved,
but
right, right. You moved before you were in high school, but okay. Yes, still crazy small world. Probably the only person I've met in the industry that's like from my hometown.
funny.
Yeah, so thanks, Alex, so much. I'm pumped to be here. Yeah, and it's just great to meet with you, and it was really fun to kind of hang out with you and Destin. In a nutshell, I mean, what we do is we help property managers, specifically we help vacation rental property managers streamline and close their books faster. So we do that through a financial operating system that allows managers to tag expenses in real time, be they on their TopKey credit cards or on any third-party cards like Visa, American Express, MasterCard. And then we fully integrate back to their property management system. So Streamline, Track, Guesty, what have you. And then we fully integrate to their accounting system. And so really what we do is we do two things really well. We help managers close their books faster, and we help them capture expenses that otherwise go unreimbursed. And every property manager knows a lot of purchases they make, a lot of times they don't get reimbursed back to their owners. So that's us in a nutshell. We also have a bill pay product. We also have full FDIC insured banking for property managers and FDIC insured up to $3 million. And through a partner bank we work with. And we have a lot of automations and AI in the product now, kind of really streamlining the flow of data to just make their bookkeepers' lives a lot easier. So that's us in a nutshell.
Well, that's phenomenal. And it sounds like, I mean, if you're in this industry and you're growing your business and you get up to, 10, 15, 20 properties, the systems that work for you in the beginning are probably not going to work for you now. So like, what are the majority of your clients, like, how are they coming from? Like, are they just coming from like just
Yeah.
different little like off shelf, apps, or are they just trying to figure out on an Excel sheet? Like, how are you helping these individuals, or like, what's the best, way of if you're, someone's listening to this right now and they're like, oh, I'm in that scenario. What's the best way to
Yeah.
kind of like get their ducks in a row?
Yeah. I mean, the simplest way to think about it is kind of, I always think of kind of three inflection points that property managers go through. And this is probably pretty true of any of other issues that managers face. Zero to call it 15, 20 units. Could be 10, could be 20, kind of in that ballpark. What you'd kind of started to do at 0, 1, 2 certainly is not going to support after you get past that 10 or 15. I would say, again, you see this at around 75, 80 units. Systems start breaking down. You probably need a couple of people now to support. It's probably not something that you're able to do with one or two people. And then generally the third kind of skew is the 250 plus. Right about that point, now we're getting into, we have multiple, probably different groups, maybe different regions that you're managing. And it can get, again, kind of like what was working for you doesn't work. So we typically see people either at the kind of like 15, 20 unit. That would be a smaller company that's kind of getting on board. We support those folks and see a lot of those. And then we typically see also people kind of at that 70 to 80. And we work with a lot of enterprise groups with, 3, 4, 5, 600 units. So the pain points are all different. If we're talking about folks who are a little bit smaller, what I would typically see is that most people have a credit card or multiple credit cards. Most people have a regional bank or a national bank they work with. They'll work with maybe an AP product like Bill.com, and then they'll use a PMS. So maybe it's OwnerRez, maybe it's HostAway, maybe it's Hostfully, maybe it's Guesty, and then or maybe they're not even using a PMS until they get about to that size. And then, typically they're using QuickBooks. They're using QuickBooks Online, maybe Xero if they're kind of, a little bit tech forward, but either way. So in that kind of construct, they are probably using a spreadsheet or some sort of kind of very simple to just kind of keep tabs on expenses, or they're not doing anything. We would kind of jump right in and help them in no short order, basically just close a lot of the processes more quickly. So you can just very quickly, we can pull in properties, we can pull in categories, we can push data right back to the systems, and they get a really clean interface, a text functionality that can allow them to give this to their team or anyone on the team. Maybe it's like a husband and wife, or maybe it's a one maintenance person and one owner. It works really simply for those types of folks. That's typically what we see, that the stack they're on, and we help you, really clean that up.
So is TopKey replacing the QuickBooks and the credit cards and all
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they're doing and kind of streamlining it in one
No, so
location?
what we would do is we would either replace your credit cards or we would supplement. So you could pull in, plug in, and we directly integrate to every credit card. That's a direct connection. It's not a third-party connection, right? So we actually built connections with Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, like one-to-one. And then we can then load those cards, and so you can use your existing cards, get the rewards, get whatever you kind of would still use. You can either use our TopKey deposit accounts, which are through our partner bank, or you can use your third-party bank if you want. You can plug that in. We obviously have pretty competitive yield. Right now we're paying out almost 3.5% APY. So, that can change over time with rates, but that is a very competitive yield, and we're FDIC insured up to $3 million through the sweep partner that we work with. So very competitive there. And then managers could kind of pick and choose. So they can use our expense management tool with their cards, or they can use our cards and our expense management tool, or they can also use a third-party bank or our bank to use our bill pay product, which is really basically replicating the same type of functionality that you would get to push expenses to your PMS, but for AP. So if you make payments to vendors via ACH or wire or check, supports that. Yeah, I mean, the big thing we see is managers just coming to us and going, hey, there's just a lot of loose ends across this swath of stuff, and it's all impacting my ultimate bottom line, right? It's like, how many dollars and cents are coming in and out of the business? Most companies don't have that pain point. They have one operating account, and that's it. But a property manager, you might have to close out 10 books, right? So we will help you really seamlessly reduce the time it's taking for you to have to kind of go run through that whole process. And you can press one button, see in a nutshell, hey, there's 13 transactions I made in the last week that need to be billed back to an owner. 12 of them have been synced back to Guesty or synced to Track. We can quickly review that. What's this one? Oh, I missed it, And you can connect multiple credit cards. So if you have a Capital One or you have an Amazon card, we can really kind of like pull in all those in one kind of system, which is really helpful for people.
Well, that's great. So if you have a favorite credit card that's getting a lot of points, you don't have to replace that. You can still keep it and keep
100%.
everything the
Yeah.
same. I saw recently that someone, a mutual client of ours, had mentioned that you helped them save a lot of money. I don't want to say the wrong amount, but it was a lot. How do you help me understand, how do you save someone money? Or is it because you're tracking it better that they weren't able to track it before? How are you
Yeah.
able to?
So I mean, one obvious one is just missed expenses. We see this all the time, where you can just kind of do an analysis, right? How much money did you pay? How much money have you gotten reimbursed? Like when you remit the net after you've gotten your owner statements processed, like how much money are you collecting and pushing back to your operating account? And a lot of folks just don't realize how much is just wasted or lost because they didn't capture a receipt or a transaction or what have you. The second thing is just time. So always hard to quantify time, but software is only as good as the amount of time it's going to save you. And if it's not saving you time, no one's going to use you. And so what we find is people say, wow, this saves me a lot of time. I'm not spending as much, and that's a dollar amount. And then the third is if you use our banking products or if you use our credit cards, we also offer rewards on those. You can look at kind of an ROI and say, hey, I made money on this. I was making X dollars last month versus what I was making this month, and I can, system kind of pays for itself. We have like multiple ways you could process and calculate it, but those are the big buckets, I would say.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially when you're saving people time, and they can actually focus on the job that they're actually doing instead of digging through all the receipts. And you're right, if you're talking to some of these clients that have 75, 80 plus properties, I'm sure that gets a little bit, confusing. Can you elaborate again? Like, so if you do have a larger portfolio of properties and say you have multiple people representing like 25% of each one of these properties, do the credit cards automatically know which property addresses would go back to the billing of each one that's spent? Or what if each address has it, or each property has its own credit card? Is that how you're tracking it all?
We don't do it that way. You can
Okay.
actually if you want, but that's probably less common. What I would
Okay.
typically see is a manager gives either their existing Capital One cards or their TopKey cards out to their team. We then allow them via text functionality to essentially tag transactions. Whenever you make a purchase, you can essentially in real time at the point at which a payment has been processed, so the card has been swiped, they get a message, they can automatically attach it. And then for transactions online, for example, we built an Amazon integration. And we actually process every single receipt and we automatically affix it using AI to the purchase for Amazon, because Amazon is one of the big receipt pain points, because the way Amazon processes transactions, they send you and bill your credit card when items are shipped out of their warehouses, not when you order them. And so that can create a lot of complexity. And I would say, 10, 15% of every purchase a property manager makes is on Amazon, sometimes even 20, 30%. And so we built an integration to their API, their business API, and we can actually pull in all that data and give you every single transaction a real-time receipt for Amazon without you having to do anything. The other thing you can do is you can create a lot of rules. So you could say, like, for this merchant, this property is tagged always. If you have custom workflows that you need to put together, maybe you're onboarding a new property, you can easily set that up with an existing card or with a new card. And you can create both physical and virtual cards. So there's a lot of flexibility to basically kind of have a choose your own adventure to get smarter rules around like tracking and tagging.
Awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. And now that I'm like just kind of like thinking about when you're talking about this, I never really even thought about this side of the business for, I'm not in this business,
Yeah.
but when you think about it, I could imagine like all the little things that you're buying for a property, fulfillment centers, toilet paper, like all the stuff. I mean, it really probably adds up. I wasn't really thinking about all that.
Yeah, maintenance. I mean, teams are in the field every day.
Right.
The average manager, I would say, if you're in a vacation rental market, you're spending anywhere between $800 and $1,200 a month per property. That varies throughout the year, right? Obviously, down season. Sometimes it's more, though. You might be spending a lot of money to do maintenance. Some managers contract with owners to handle everything, right? Some managers contract to only handle certain items. An interesting thing is, regardless of how you're structuring your agreements with your owners, typically you want to show your owners the work that you've done. And so even if you've bought a bunch of stuff that you're not going to ever build back to the owner, you should still be pushing it back to the owner expense and showing the owner, hey, I did a bunch of work for you. You don't have to like show every single thing. I probably wouldn't show them toilet paper. But if you buy a toaster oven or if you buy something for the property, these owners, should know about it. So that's just one example. We can help automate that and push that stuff over, and you can sync over an expense at $0 if you need to, and really show your work. And that's something that a lot of managers forget about. And it's like, hey, owners will take that into account, right, on renewal.
I love that, because that's like one of our biggest issues, I feel like, is that before a client came on to use our service, there was no documented expense for trash. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
they were spending it, they just didn't really know how they were spending it, whether it was 1-800
Yeah.
junk or whatever it was. And now with us, there's like a documented expense that they're able to really see now, like, oh wow, this is what this will cost.
And
And I
owners
think,
probably have no idea. They probably don't even think about it. They're like, oh, trash just
no,
gets taken out magically, right? Like I would just assume.
right. And what we do is, like, whenever we do, like, if we ever make a mistake, or if we ever, we always make it right. And, or, sometimes got off on the wrong foot, we didn't get the right, service date, but they gave us a bunch of properties. Maybe we'll just take care of the on demand for free. But I always send them an invoice, and it'll have a dollar amount and it'll say 0, because I want them to know, like, this is a
Yeah,
cost, like, not to make them feel bad, but it's just the fact that, like, it is a
totally.
cost. And so sometimes then they say, hey, wow, I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you for doing that.
Right.
So I
Right.
used to not do that, but someone taught me that. And it's kind of like what you're saying too. It's like, you should let them know that it's still being done and there's a cost, but like, it's not free. It's,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
you're taking care of it.
People
What's the
forget,
biggest
right?
they do
Yeah,
forget,
go ahead.
or they just kind of assume. What's the biggest misconception that people have with like TopKey before they come on, that like after they're on, they're like, wow, like this is like, I don't know why I waited so long.
I think the biggest thing is people think the onboarding is going to be pretty gnarly. I think people get a little bit stigmatized because they've gone through a PMS onboarding, especially some of our larger customers. We work with 500-600 unit managers, and we can onboard someone with 2 45-minute phone calls, 10, 15 minutes of upfront work. I typically tell folks when we're onboarding them, like, hey, expect to carve out a couple hours over the next 3 weeks. That's it. I mean, we're not. And the other thing I would say that we've done, I think, phenomenal job of, we're 2.5 years in, right? Being live, we've been building the company, and longer than that, but like the actual, live with customers, really haven't had any churn in 2.5 years. And one of the things I speak about when I talk about why we're kind of a hybrid company. We're headquartered in Nashville, and then we have engineers that are remote, but our CS team is right here. Well, not right here. They're on another room right now on a call, but we're here. When there are issues, we are talking, we are communicating, we are talking to our customers, we are talking to them all the time. And that, I think, is so important for any company, but especially companies that involve and handle finances. We are constantly communicating with our partners, and that I think really helps. It helps us iterate, helps us capture things, and helps us kind of understand other pain points and then kind of build toward those. Those things really matter, and I think people forget when they work with some of these bigger companies, who are, many of them are great companies, but it just gets harder and harder to navigate that as you grow. And so far, we've been able to scale, well past 100 property managers, and we still have like a very good reputation, I think, which you can lose at any day is the way I kind of look at it. So, every day is, I love that Jeff Bezos, it's a little hokey, but it's like day one or whatever it is. It's like, that's so true. Like for companies, people kind of don't realize how important it is to think like that. So those are the things that I would point to that I'm proud of, but also like, if you want to learn more, we can always chat, do a demo for you, walk you through the product.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. We were kind of talking about that before we started this recording about being in office with our team.
Yeah.
Well, on that note though, how do people find you? How do they find TopKey? Like, what's the best way if they are, they hear this and like, wow, that's something I'm looking for. I'm in that. I have those pain points. How do they find you? How do they get to you?
Message me or anyone on our team on LinkedIn, message us through our website, book a demo on our website, call me. We're happy to chat. So we're pretty open. You can find us on our website, topkey.com.
We'll share your email as well with everyone, just to make sure they have it. But Jonathan, I appreciate your time. Thank you for what you're doing for the industry and helping with these pain points that people maybe didn't even know that they were having. But now you're kind of shedding light on this and letting them know that there's another way outside of these outdated QuickBooks and different Excel files that they have. Again, looking forward to see you at the next conference.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.